There comes a time, baby, when the soul doesn't need another sermon, not another scroll, not another notification lighting up your screen like a neon angel. No, no, no. There comes a moment, just a flicker in the tide of your life, when heaven leans down and whispers, I'm not asking you for an hour. I'm not asking you for a mountain. Begging you, just stay 15 seconds only. 15 seconds, child. That instance all. Not long enough to boil water. Not long enough to finish a song. But long enough for God to break your chains. You see, we live in a world that moves like wildfire. But our spirit was designed for stillness. We scroll past joy. We swipe away peace. And all the while, God is on bended knee, begging, pleading, stay, just stay, for 15 seconds, with me. Yes, my dear, sometimes the holiest thing a soul can do is pause. Not preach, not run, not post, just pause. The world is moving so fast now, isn't it? Everything blurs, people, time, emotions, the very hours God gave us. You wake up and it's already night. You try to pray, but the prayer gets caught in your throat because you're already thinking about tomorrow. You're thinking about bills and heartbreak, about what they said and didn't say, about what's broken and still breaking. But I want you to hear me now, with the full weight of truth wrapped in love. God is not asking for your marathon. He's just not begging for a mountain of effort. He is whispering with all the tenderness of heaven, stay just 15 seconds, not 15 hours, not 15 days, just that one divine pause that stops time long enough for your soul to come up for air. 15 seconds where you don't have to fix anything, where you don't have to solve the storm or wear the mask. Just pause, child. And in that pause, meet the God who has been waiting patiently behind the curtain of your chaos. Oh yes, there's something sacred in stillness. There's something mighty in the quiet breath between burdens. When you sit still, even trembling, even tired, you let heaven sit with you. Now don't let the world convince you that being still is weak, that slowing down means you've lost the fight. No, baby, being still means you trust the God who fights for you. It means you don't have to swing your fists when the Lord has already lifted his hand. And you might say, but Dr. Angelou, I don't have time to pause. I've got mouths to feed. I've got wounds that one should stop bleeding. I've got grief, shame, and ghosts walking my hallway. Yes, I hear you. But hear me. You don't have time not to pause. You can't afford to run past the well when your soul is dying of thirst. God doesn't need your busyness, he needs your availability. He doesn't require your excellence, only your presence. He's not interested in how loud your prayers sound, but how sincerely your spirit surrenders when the world finally hushes. You don't need to speak in tongues. You don't need to quote scripture. You don't need to dance or fall or shout. Just breathe and let God be God. Because in 15 seconds, he can remind you of who you are. In 15 seconds, he can remove the lie that's been living rent-free in your head for years. In 15 seconds, he can lay his hand on your back and tell you, child, I've been with you the whole time. 15 seconds might seem small to you, but what is small in your hands becomes mighty in his. He fed thousands with a few loaves. He calmed storms with a word. He created stars with breath. So don't you dare tell me what he can't do in 15 seconds of surrendered stillness. The trouble is we stir addicted to movement. We think if we aren't doing, then we aren't worthy. But I tell you, rest is holy. The pause is power. The hush is healing. When you pause, you make room for the divine. You carve out a corner of your soul and say, Lord, come sit with me. And he will. Oh yes, he will. He still sit with your scars. He still sit with your regrets. He'll sit with the part of you that screams silently at night. And he won't run. He won't flinch. He'll just hold you until your spirit remembers that it was never alone. You see, heaven doesn't shout to be heard. God doesn't compete with the noise. He waits for you in the pause, in the pocket of silence between one breath and the next. And when you give him those 15 seconds, you invite eternity to interrupt time. So the next time the weight of the world feels too heavy, before you react, before you fall apart, pause. Let the tears fall in the stillness. Let your chest rise with breath. Let your thoughts float to the surface and hand them to God like broken coins. Say nothing if you must. Just be. That's all he steps asking. Just be with him. 15 seconds. It will feel like eternity if you let it. And in that eternity, chains will break that generations before you couldn't break. In that pause, love will find you in the corner of your soul that's been waiting for it. We chase healing, but healing often finds us when we finally stop running. We chase clarity, but clarity whispers best when we've stopped yelling. We chase God, but he's always been standing right behind us saying,
"Stay, child. Just stay. Let me love you."
So I say to you, not as a poet, not as a teacher, but as a woman whose sippers learned to pause in the middle of her own pain. When God says just 15 seconds, you better believe it ain't just about time. It's just about trust. Pause. Breathe. Be still. And let the heavens fall where they may. Because once you give God those 15 seconds, you can realize he was never asking for time. He was asking for your heart. And in that moment you so understand, 15 seconds with God can change a lifetime. Child, let me tell you something that don't often come in the sermons or the Sunday school lessons. There is a voice. Oh yes. A voice older than time. Softer than the hum of a mother to her nursing child. Stronger than thunder rolling across southern skies. That voice, that divine whisper, does not crash through your chaos like a marching band. It does not shout over your noise like street vendors on a busy morning. It does not chase you down like a siren. No, my dear. It waits. It waits for you in the stillness, in the sacred hush, in the breath between your inhale and your next heartbreak. It waits for you in silence so thick it could hold you like arm. Because God, oh my Lord, God speaks in stillness. And that stillness is not empty, no. That stillness is full. It is pregnant with purpose. It is where the holy rests, and where your soul remembers who it is. But we run, don't we? Oh, how we run. We fill every silence with something. Scrolling, tapping, calling, worrying, rushing. Because stillness feels foreign. Stillness feels like surrender. And baby, we've been taught to fight for everything. Attention, validation, survival. But the voice of God does not argue with your chaos. He waits for you to become quiet enough to hear him, to sense him, to feel him press up against your weariness like the morning sun against cold skin. And when that stillness comes, when the soul finally stops thrashing, you hear it. Oh yes, you hear it. It's such not a loud thing. It's such not a voice that comes to impress. It's such a voice that comes to restore. It does not come with fireworks. It comes like water in a desert, like warmth in winter. That voice doesn't have to shout because it carries truth. And truth doesn't need a microphone. Truth just needs an open heart and a moment without distraction. You might be thinking, but how will I know it's God? How will I know it's not just me? Oh baby, you will so know. Because the voice of God does not shame. It does not confuse. It does not bruise your heart to make a point. The voice of God is healing. It speaks in quiet confidence. It might say, you are still loved, when your mistakes are screaming otherwise. It might say, go left, when the world is telling you to follow the crowd to the right. It might whisper, let them go, when your soul is still holding on to what's already gone. That sits God. And he speaks in stillness because he honors choice. He will not bulldoze his way into your thoughts. He is too gentle, too royal, too sacred for that. He speaks when you give him the invitation of silence. But silence, honey, don't come easy these days. We should have built our lives around noise. Television on in the background. Phones buzzing with somebody else. SIP's emergency. Conversations layered with anxiety, distraction, and the pressure to respond quickly. We confuse noise with life. But life, real life, soulful life, grows in silence. You can't hear the seed growing under the soil, but it's growing just the same. You can't hear healing knitting your soul back together in the night, but it's happening. You can hear the love of God pouring into your cracks in the middle of your stillness. But baby, that love is pouring like rain. Stillness is God's sixth language, and the Spirit is fluent in quiet. Don't be afraid of it. Don't run from it. If I'm praying, God speak to me, and He has been answering, be still and know that I am God. He's been asking, God, show me the way. And He sits and saying, stop moving long enough to see where I sit, I'm pointing. You've been crying out, Lord, I'm tired. And He sits been whispering, then come rest with me. Not in a temple, not in a church, not in a stadium, but in the stillness of your own breath. Right there in your bedroom, right there at the kitchen sink, right there when the kids are asleep and the loneliness creeps in like a thief. That's distance when God speaks. And oh, what He says. He says you are not alone. He says you are still worthy. He says His set's not finished with you yet. He says your name, not the one the world calls you, but the one He wrote on His hands before you were born. But you won't hear it unless you hush, unless you slow the scroll. Turn off the noise, lay down the performance, and simply say, speak, Lord. I am listening. You see, the Holy Spirit isn't looking for noise. He's looking for access, and He gets access through your stillness. Oh, my dear, how many miracles have we missed because we were too busy moving? How many answers have floated right past us because we wouldn't sit still? How many healing words have gone unheard because the volume of life was just too high? But you can change that. Right now. Right here. Close your eyes. Let your shoulders drop. Let the world spin without you for just a moment. God sits, got it. And if you listen, really listen, you so hear Him. Not in thunder, not in earthquake, not in fire, but in a still, small voice. A voice so full of love it will undo you. A voice so full of peace it will gather your broken pieces and sing them back together. Don't underestimate the power of quiet. It sits where God hides His loudest truths. So hush now, not forever, just for a while, long enough to remember who you are, long enough to feel His breath on your spirit, long enough to hear the one who's been speaking all along. And when He speaks, you will know, because the winds will bow, your fears will scatter, and your soul will rise, finally heard, finally held, finally home. You don't have to dress up for God. You don't have to come with the right words or recite long prayers carved in memory but empty in meaning. You don't need to clean your soul with holy water before He'll come sit beside you. God is not a guest in your life. He is the architect. He is not waiting for you to get it all together. He's just waiting for you to get honest. You see, baby, too many people walk through life trying to impress the divine, wearing church clothes on the outside while their hearts bleed quietly on the inside. They sing loud in the pews but cry alone in the night. They serve the world their performance and wonder why they still feel empty. But listen to me, sugar. God ain't interested in your performance. He's not impressed by your public praise when your private pain goes unspoken. He's not counting how many Bible verses you can quote, nor is He keeping score of how long you can pray with your eyes closed and hands lifted. No. What God wants, what He longs for is your presence. The real you. The cracked, trembling, unsure, and maybe a little angry version of you. The tired version of you. The doubting version. The broken-hearted, grief-laced, Lord, I don't even know what to say anymore version of you. Because that sits the you He died for. Not the polished one, not the filtered photo version, but the truth of you. raw and undone. When you strip away the layers the world told you to wear, when you lay down the heavy mask of I sip and fine, and step into the room of grace barefoot and honest, you shall hear a whisper in your soul say, I've been waiting for this you. And what a tragedy it is, beloved, that we've been taught to come to God only when we fixed ourselves. We treat him like he is as the boss at the end of the hallway, only to be approached when our paperwork is in order. But God is more like a mother who don't care what her child looks like. He's the father who pulls you close even when your knees are muddy from falling. He wants the truth. Not the dressed up truth, but the truth. Because God is not calling you to impress him. He's just calling you to invite him. Invite him into the mess. Invite him into the confusion. Into the room with the broken furniture and the unwashed memories. Into the closet where you've hidden pieces of yourself, even you were afraid to look at. Just say, come on in, Lord. There's nothing perfect here, but there's honesty. There's this presence. And child, don't you know that presence is more powerful than perfection? God can do more with 1 second of your surrendered heart than a lifetime of performance done to gain applause. Because when you show up real, God shows up realer. When you come as you are, he comes as he is, mighty, merciful, full of truth and full of grace. There's something beautiful, something holy about standing in front of God and saying, I've got nothing fancy to offer, but I'm here. No pretense, no filters, no rehearsals, just you, wounded, wanting, waiting, and him smiling, saying, this is the moment I've been waiting for. You don't need to know all the right words. He already knows your heart. You don't have to explain your tears. He's just kept everyone in a bottle. You don't have to be perfect to be loved by a perfect God. What a shame it would be to spend your whole life performing for a God who never asked for a show, who only wanted to walk with you in the cool of the day, like he did with Adam and Eve, just enjoying your presence, just being with you. Because that's all he's just ever wanted, your nearness, your attention, your soul saying, here I am, Lord, I don't yet have it all together, but I suck not hiding anymore. And let me tell you something that might just change the way you see God. He already knows. He knows the things you haven't yet told anyone, the fears you don't yet name, the dreams you gave up on, the guilt you carry like luggage passed down from your mother's mother. And he still wants you, not reluctantly, not as a project, not as a charity case. He wants you with joy, with pride, with a love that does not shake when you stumble. You are not too much. You are not too late. You are not too broken to be held. And you don't need perfection to be accepted. You just need presence. So let the people perform. Let them chase applause and image and approval. You sit with God in the quiet of your heart. You bring your whole weary self. You open your mouth or say nothing at all and just be with him. Because in your presence he pours his peace. In your presence he pours his healing. In your presence, not your perfection, he pours out his love. So go ahead, baby. Take off the mask. Let your soul breathe. Let your fears fall and say, here I am, Lord, just me. No glitter, no makeup, just me. And you still feel it, the sacred embrace of a God who was never after your image, but your intimacy. And in that moment, you will understand something the world once did teach you, that you don't need to be perfect to be loved by the one who is. You only need to be present. 15 seconds. Doesn't sound like much, does it? It ain't the kind of time that shakes mountains or turns rivers backward. It ain't enough to run a race or build a house or even stir a pot of stew. But in God's hands, oh baby, 15 seconds is a cathedral. 15 seconds is a sanctuary. 15 seconds is a battlefield where the war is won before the enemy even knows you're armed. You see, we measure time by clocks and calendars, but the Lord, he measures time by obedience, by faith, by availability. You give him a moment, and he shall give you a miracle. Because God don't need hours to do what only takes a breath. He don't need a ceremony to heal what's been hurting you since childhood. All he needs is permission. An open heart, a little space in the noise. A yes that doesn't have to be shouted, just whispered from the deep. And baby, don't you ever underestimate what can happen. When heaven meets earth in that short stretch of silence you give him. 15 seconds with God is like a window flying open in a house that's been closed up for too long. The air rushes in. The light floods the room. And suddenly you can breathe again. See, the world has trained us to believe that big things only come from big moments. That transformation needs grand stages. That healing comes from 10-step plans. And that deliverance needs drama. But God? He works in the small. He speaks in whispers. He heals in pauses. He shows up in the quiet, in the hush between your busy thoughts. And when you dare to give him just 15 seconds, you allow him to shift your entire atmosphere. 15 seconds. That's just enough time for him to say, you are loved. Enough time to silence the voices that told you otherwise. Enough time to lift a weight that's been sitting on your chest since that heartbreak. Enough time to breathe life into a dream you buried with your own hands. Yes, child. 15 seconds. 15 holy seconds of stillness. Of surrender. Of Lord, I feel him here. I don't have all the answers, but I feel him listening. You don't need to know everything to experience him. You don't need to be a scholar or a saint. You just need to be available. And that test the problem is insisted. We are busy. Oh, we're so good at being busy. Busy in our heads. Busy in our heart. Busy with trying to hold everything together that was never meant to be held by us in the first place. But God is not trying to interrupt your schedule to burden you. He sits just trying to bless you. He sits not asking for your whole day. He sits asking for your attention. He sits saying, give me your eyes for a moment. Look away from the screen. Look away from the fear. Look away from the mirror that lies to you. And if you do, if you give him just that sliver of time, you will feel the shift. Suddenly your breathing changes. The tension in your shoulders begins to melt. The worries don't disappear, but they stop driving the car. Because when you pause for him, he enters the room. Not like a stranger, but like someone who has been there all along, waiting for you to notice him. 15 seconds. And anxiety loosens its grip. 15 seconds. And the bitterness that clings to your soul begins to release. 15 seconds. And the tears come. Not out of pain, but out of recognition. He never left me. It's such in those moments, those brief, beautiful, sacred moments, that God rewrites everything. Not with fire from the sky, but with peace. A peace that don't make sense. A peace that won't be explained by science or logic. A peace that just is. You'll walk out of that 15-second pause different. You once didn't even know what changed. Only that something did. Only that you feel lighter. More aware. More seen. You gave him a moment. And he gave you eternity wrapped in grace. And maybe, just maybe, you'll want to give him 15 more. That sips the beauty of God, sips presence. Once you've tasted it, you find yourself hungry in a whole new way. Not for food, not for attention, but for stillness, for truth, for that holy hush where your soul and his voice become one. 15 seconds, child. That is all it takes. That sips the spark, the key, the doorway to everything your spirit's been begging for. You don't then have to force it. You don't have to fabricate a moment of holiness. You just have to stop. You just have to pause. Let the world spin without you for a breath. Let the emails wait. Let the notifications sit unanswered. Just be still. And there, right there, in that humble offering of your awareness, he will come. Not because he sits far, but because you finally stop long enough to see that he never left. 15 seconds. Enough time for chains to fall. Enough time for direction to be revealed. Enough time for mercy to rise like the morning sun over the field of your broken heart. Don't that you dare underestimate it. That pause you think is too small. God will use it to do what couldn't be done in years. He sets just that kind of God. All you need to do is say, "Here I am, Lord," just for a moment, just for 15 seconds. But I am all yours. And that, beloved, will be more than enough. Sometimes all it takes is a sliver of time to change the course of a whole life. Just a moment, a breath, a holy pause, where you stop pretending, stop performing, stop pushing, and in that sacred stillness you give God your attention, maybe for the first time in a long while. You say, "Lord, I'm tired, I'm worn thin, but I'm still here." And right then, child, something shifts, something eternal begins in the ordinary. You see, God is not looking for people who shine the brightest. He's looking for people who pause, who stop long enough to feel, who become still enough to listen. Because in the listening we learn, in the pause we are formed, in the stillness we become. The truth is, when you give God 15 seconds of your honesty, He gives you the invitation of a lifetime. It starts simple. You sit down, you close your eyes, not because someone told you to, but because something in your spirit said, "Be still," and you breathe. You feel the air go in and out. You feel the weight in your chest. And instead of running from it, you meet it. You welcome God into it. You say, "Come sit with me in this ache, in this chaos, in this quiet." And child, that is when the real miracle begins. 15 seconds turns into something more. 15 seconds becomes a rhythm, a language. It becomes a new way of being. At first, maybe it's just stillness, a break in your day, but then it deepens. You start to feel God's presence, not just in those 15 seconds, but in the minutes that follow, in the hours that come. You begin to crave it, not out of obligation, but out of desire. You start saying, "I want more of this peace. I want more of this presence. I want more of Him." Because once you know the warmth of God's stillness, the noise of the world loses its grip. It doesn't happen all at once. It comes slow, like honey on a warm day. It comes quiet, like rain falling on a tin roof in the middle of the night. And it teaches you, not with thunder, but with tenderness, that you can live different, that you can walk in rhythm with heaven, that life isn't always about movement, it's about meaning. You'll begin to notice the little things again, the beauty in a sunrise, the softness in a child's laugh, the tears that fall, not out of pain, but from recognition. God is here. He's always been here. And now you're finally aware of Him. 15 seconds. That's the beginning of transformation. That's the crack in the wall where light begins to shine through. Don't you know that many a strong tower was torn down, not by bulldozers, but by small, persistent shifts, water-shaped stone, not by force, but by consistency. And that's what happens when you give God those small pauses each day. He begins to shape you. Your anger doesn't bite like it used to. Your fear doesn't teen you like it once did. Your doubts don't drown you anymore, because something in you has changed. And not because of a lightning bolt, but because of a whisper. A whisper that said, "Stay with me just for a moment. Let me love you." And once you let Him love you in that moment, you begin to let Him love you everywhere. Suddenly He sits in your footsteps. He sits in the words you speak. He's in the way you look at people, the way you forgive, the way you rise each morning. He becomes not just part of your day, He becomes the center of your existence. That's what happens when you give God your attention, even for just a breath. He multiplies it. He turns a moment into a movement, a pause into a purpose, stillness into strength. You see, that's just a beautiful paradox of heaven. We think growth means going faster. But God says growth is in the ground. It sits slow. It stews buried. It's still, but it sits alive. 15 seconds can plant a seed. And if you water it daily, oh baby, that seed becomes a tree. A tree that shades others. A tree that bears fruit in dry seasons. A tree that cannot be moved because its roots go deep into the love of a God who met you in the quiet and called you his own. You shall begin to pray differently. Not like a performance, but like a conversation. You'll talk to God while brushing your teeth, while folding your laundry, while standing in line at the grocery store. He'll become your companion, not your emergency contact. All because of a simple decision to pause. This is not about religion. It's not about rituals. It's about relationship. And every relationship grows when two people take time to be with one another. That's just all God wanted.